All right, here we go. We're almost ready. That's too bad. Rachel, come back. Well, hey, good morning. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Sid. Glad you're here. We got a few people out there on YouTube as well. Feel free to jump in and tell us who you are. Just drop it in the chat there. Love to hear from you. It's our first product coffee of the year. How you doing? Sid, happy New Year. How are you?
Great. Good morning. Happy New Year, Jason. Good to see you. Rachel.
I can see your microphone moving, but I hear nothing coming through. Huh, interesting. I wonder if that's on my end.
You able to hear me?
That's great. Technical difficulty. Our first session of the year.
Maybe I should try.
There we go. I got you now.
Oh. Can you hear me okay?
I got you now, yes. There we are. I can hear you just fine. Good morning. How are you? Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Hi, Rachel. Hey, Manesh. Good morning.
Morning. I'm going to be driving while this is all going on. So.
All right. So we will ask you to share your screen, and it'll be great.
Sure. No problem. I'll double tap my Tesla and let it drive it on the highway, and then we can just do whatever we need to do.
I was going to say, I hope you own a Tesla.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. That's awesome. I might actually, I probably would try not to live stream from a Tesla, but I might. I don't know. Rachel, I think this is your first time here. Welcome.
Thank you. I haven't been to Product Coffee in a long time. It's probably been a couple of years, but.
Gotcha. Probably since you joined Gray Shift then, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
So, that's cool. So we're going to give it just a few more minutes, let a few more people join before we start doing introductions. And since you haven't been here for a while, just to let you know what we do, for about the first half hour, once we get about 10 people on the line, we'll just do a round of introductions for anyone who wants to. And the way I pick who I ask to introduce themselves. If your camera is on, I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. And if it's not on, you can still do so. Just raise your virtual hand using the Zoom reactions panel. But we'd love to have you on camera and say hello face to face. A lot of times early in the morning, people don't want to do that, and that's okay too. But that's kind of the way we generally run. And we ask you to just tell us who you are, who you're with, and what has your attention right now. I mean, what are you focused on right now? Is there a challenge that you're looking for solutions on that you're working with right now? If you just had a product launch or something that you're really excited about that you'd like to share with the community and get some feedback on, or just have some celebration with other folks in the Product Coffee community. And we would love to have you join us for that. I see we have got Holly. Good morning, Holly. How are you? I don't know if Holly can hear me. And hi, Alicia. We've got you here. Welcome back. Good. Good to see you. And we also got Graham here for the first time, I think. Welcome, Graham. And Hector and Jim. And who else we got on here? Jeff Meddy's dialing in here. Fantastic. So, well, Delisha, why don't we start with you? Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody and tell us who you are and who you're with and what has your attention right now?
Hi, everyone. I'm Delisha. I'm working at Walmart Global Tech. What has my attention now is just more, I guess, more understanding of product management. I am aspiring product manager, so actively interviewing. I have a lot of interviews going on right now, so that's a good thing. So just joining and excited to be here this morning.
Excellent. Excellent. Glad to have you. Welcome. Let's see.
I'm not sure.
Well, I guess Alexa wants to get in on the action too. So, so let's see here. Who do we have next? Let's say hello to Hector, all the way from the Washington, D.C. area. Welcome back, Hector. How are you, my friend?
Hey, doing great, Jason. And hi,
Happy New
everyone.
Year.
Happy New Year to everyone. Hard to believe that this is only the second week of 2023, but lots of things happening. So some of the things that I've been doing is organizing some of the activities that we're doing at Product Camp DC. We've been doing monthly online sessions. We already have announced a few events on our website, so you guys are welcome to attend. Most of our events are free to attend. And we're right now kicking off a 4-part series for those that are in the process of job seeking, because we know that in many tech companies and software companies right now, because of the rising uncertainty, there's been a lot of layoffs, well-publicized layoffs. So if you're in the process of job searching, we have a 4-part series that is coming up. It's actually 4 different sessions, 1 week apart. They're only half an hour long, and they're being led by Phil Terry, who's the author of Never Search Alone, a book that just came out recently. And in that book, he talks about this approach that it has been a proving approach on how to find the right product job and how to actually use your network to help each other find the right opportunities, whatever you're looking for. And it's a matter of putting together people that are also in the job search process that will help you and figure out, what is the right job for you, but also you're helping and encouraging and supporting each other through the job seeking process.
Love it. I'm so glad you're doing that. We had actually been talking about doing a similar series here for Product Coffee. And then just last week, I got your email that you were doing that series with Product Camp DC and said, well, let's just make sure everybody knows about Hector, about the Product Camp DC series that's going on and get them there. So, and those are on Thursdays starting week after next. Is it January 25th? Is that right?
29th. Actually, I shared the information in the link via the chat for those of you who are interested. The series is free to join. Just all you need to do is just sign up through that Eventbrite page that I just shared the link for. And if you have any other questions, you can always visit our website. Also, the link is included, or connect with me on LinkedIn. There's also a short link where you can connect with me, and I can be more than glad to answer any questions or even take topics or speakers that you would like to see lined up. We're always looking for experts that can do any kind of talk on product related topics.
Excellent. Perfect. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Hector.
The song Perfect?
No.
We lost your audio for a sec, Jason. We don't hear you.
We can't hear you, Jason.
I put it on mute because Alexa decided she was going to talk to me. So I'm going to go shut her down here while the next person introduces themselves. And let's see here. Let's jump over to Rajan. Welcome back, my friend. Glad to have you here.
Sorry.
Oops, had myself on mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Yes, my name is Rajan Deshel, and I am working with Gray Shift right now as a product owner. What has my attention right now? I've just went on a cruise right before the holidays, and I'm about to hit up another cruise in February. So we're planning multiple cruises this year. So, trying to get those straight. And some of them have, family groups of people. My previous one was just my wife and I for our anniversary. But, our next one is now with family. So that'll be interesting. Lots of family. My mother, her mother. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So, planning that out and making sure we have all the details available, logistics of who gets in where, and then, having that. So, and then the next one after that, the next cruise after that, we're already planning for that. So,
Oh, wow.
Rajan, you realize if you're cruising around near Florida, you better call me.
yeah. Yeah, we're down in, we're leaving out of Miami, so we'll be down in your area somewhere.
Oh, that's like another state from where I am in Florida. It's like a 15-hour drive.
Oh,
Well, I hope
goodness.
you guys have fun.
It's a narrow state, though. Come on. It's not like it's Texas. I mean, you can drive across it in an
Oh
afternoon.
my God. The only time I've ever been in Texas was when I was going through it, and I still had to spend like 20 hours. That is the biggest.
Yeah, Texas is pretty big. Yeah,
I
takes a
lived
day.
near Daytona, and I accidentally left work one day late at night. Long story, but drove to Tampa, so it's not that far.
Well, Holly, since we've got you on the screen, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. I think I know most people here. I'm Holly Jewell, Have Opinions Will Travel. I enjoy leading product teams and building exciting new products. And right now, fostering new cats that keep showing up at my house. If you have a cat that you're looking to get rid of, my address, no, I'm just kidding. Please don't bring more cats. But if you are interested in having a cat, please let me know. That's, I guess, what's top of mind. I'm kind of like Rajan. It's less product topics at the moment and more, how do we market cats as products and get people to take them away from me? Is the pricing model not good? I mean, they're free. I mean, what do we do here? So, yep. So I'm really excited about this topic. I can't wait to hear what Alex has to share with us this morning.
I'm really excited to have Alex here, and since why don't we hear from even though we're going to hear a lot from Alex in just a minute, why don't you come say hi, Alex, and tell us what has your attention as we start out the new year.
Good morning, everyone. How's it going? I think like maybe most people, OpenAI has really caught my attention in the past few months, maybe like others, just because it snuck up on me. I wasn't as like privy to what was going on. I heard about Dolly here. And then I saw a demo for Notion where somebody was demoing their AI stuff. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. That's kind of crazy. And
I missed that.
And then I saw a few other things, and a friend of mine started a startup. And it turned out it was all open AI. And I was like, that's wild. It's like one company. So I'm like, all right, there's something certainly going on here, especially with generative AI. So I'm very excited about that. I'm very curious about how we might leverage that to synthesize all the things that we do and observe and listen. So I'm going to start tinkering probably. But yeah, so anyways, that's like top of mind for me. Outside of that, maybe it's, hanging out with my dogs here and making sure I get out into the woods and do some runs and bike rides.
Cool. Well, welcome back. Yeah, everybody's kind of ramping into the new year with some new eyes and new perspectives as we do. Of course, I know you've been outdoors for as long as I can remember, so I don't think it's so much of a New Year's resolution. It's just kind of keeping the flow going. So,
yep, ride the wave.
All right. So just as a reminder for everyone who's joining us for the first time, we got quite a few first-time visitors here today. If you turn on your camera, we'll invite you to introduce yourself and let everybody get to know you a little bit. And one of the things we do here for the first half hour or so of Product Coffee is we help each other solve some problems. We talk about the challenges that we might be facing on a day-to-day basis or whatever has our attention. Sometimes there's just something to celebrate together. But if there's something that you're focused on this year, a problem you're trying to solve this year or this week or this month or just today, throw it out here and you'll make some connections with some other product people who are part of our community who are always anxious to jump in and help out. We got some really smart people who have been here for quite a while. And I will also, I want to welcome for the first time joining us today, Denise and Ashley. You're here for the first time. Thanks for, or at least the first time with this email address if you've been here before. And I'm going to switch over to Steve Youngblood and say, hey, Steve, Happy New Year. Why don't you come introduce yourself to everybody?
Hey everybody, I'm in the car right now. I've committed to work out every morning, so you're catching me on the way back home. I'm a chief product officer at a startup called Fuel Trust. Interesting enough, we were talking about AI a few minutes ago, and you know the Open AI project is obviously very catchy, and you can see it and touch it and feel it. But I don't think a lot of people know that AI actually originated back in the late 50s. Here. And so, and what I've been building into Fuel Trust is a huge AI engine to basically track maritime fuel and make real-time recommendations and forecasts on how shipping companies ought to fuel, and not just fossil fuels, but perhaps in the future, other types of propulsion mechanisms or fuels. And a lot of it's not that sexy. So if you look at a lot of what we're doing, it's not something that you necessarily play with or have fun with. So there's a lot of neat stuff behind OpenAI, but I think there's a lot of other uses for that type of technology that'll change the way we do things. So I'm busy. We've got our first revenue that came in late last year with Fuel Trust, and now we're signing a couple of new customers this month. So I get to play salesperson, implementation person, as well as product person.
Startup life.
As well as starting to get paid after 2.5 years. So we made sure developers and others get paid, and the 2 or 3 founders wait. So the wait period might be over. So there's that. And then I also work with another company called Blink Sky. It's digital gift cards, but a lot more going on behind that, including how AI could potentially be determining how you incent and reward and congratulate, perhaps on the fly, without you even knowing you did it. So a lot more going on there. Hopefully I'll have some new updates there in the coming months. But other than that, I really look forward to, as we hear all the doom and gloom about an impending recession, when you're in the product startup game, there's never a recession. We're always going. So hopefully all the product people here will keep their heads high and be thinking of new things. I heard the term get curious. Keep getting curious, because obviously what we're thinking about today will result in jobs for folks, tomorrow.
Excellent. Cool. Thank you, Steve. Congratulations on that first. Awesome. And definitely starting to feel the fruits of all that labor. I know you've been burning it hard for the last couple of years getting Fuel Trust going.
Yeah,
so
just to let everybody know, age does not matter. I turned 61 yesterday, and I still have like 5, 6, 7 startups in the planning. So
excellent. Wow. Yep. Excellent. Cool. So good to see you. Happy New Year.
Birthday.
Love the shirt.
Happy birthday, Steve.
And happy birthday. Yep.
We could
Cool.
sing, but we won't, because that's not what we should do.
Well, fine. If you're going to veto it. Okay. I'm just kidding.
But Product Camp karaoke, that should be the after party next time.
I'm down with that always, for sure. All right. Well, it looks like Manesh has gotten stable and has his camera on. Do you want to say hello, Manesh?
He was unstable before?
Manesh has always been a little unstable.
You're on mute.
I know.
Nash, you're on mute. There you go.
As is Jim.
Very good. Yeah, mentally unstable for sure, but physically stable right now at this moment. We'll see how the day goes, but Manesh Patel, the right product that I've kind of here. At the end of the year, it took 2 weeks off, and like, okay, we're done with the year. I'm done. And unbeknownst to me, when I got back, there was 6 times more work. So what's on my mind right now is just getting all that organized for the rest of the year and getting people lined up, stakeholders, getting their buy-in and making sure that all that's in place before we actually start delving into the actual details. So that's where I'm at right now.
So the easy stuff.
Yeah.
Jokes. I really need a rim shot.
I can probably teach you how to make that happen. All right, so I had a question come in. Let's see if there's anybody that I haven't introduced or given a chance to introduce yourself. And if anybody turns their camera on at any point, we'll drop you in and invite you to introduce yourself. I had a question come in. As you know, every time we have a product coffee, one of the things that I ask you in the registration form is what's on your mind. What's something that you'd like help with? And I had an anonymous question come in, but it was a pretty good question. Given that we've got some really solid veterans here who have been through a couple of transitions and roles, I wanted to throw it out here to our networking group. As a product manager, when you're working in a company and things just don't seem to be progressing and maturing with your organization in the healthiest way and getting increasingly satisfying, how do you know when it's time to give up where you are and make that change and move on to the next role or move on to the next place? And I want to throw that out first. I'm just going to toss that out to Hector, since I know you've got the series going with Product Camp DC, and there's a lot of transition going on. So I know you've been talking to a lot of people about this. I would love to hear your thoughts on it, Hector.
Sure. So this is something that we've been discussing for the last few months. Given that right now in 2023, rising uncertainty, economic uncertainty is kind of driving a lot of different directions and setting up for organizations. And the ones that started in 2022 working on product discovery, because they found they had very little or no new ideas for products to be able to remain relevant, they ended up invariably not having any success because their teams don't have any experience, and they also lack the processes of product discovery, which is different than just being a caretaker for a product that has been a cash cow for a long time, mostly just doing incremental improvements. And what that has driven now is focusing on figuring out how to actually do more with less, because some of these companies have to downsize, meaning that the product managers remain. So there's job security for most product managers. That's the good part about it being in product management. However, product teams are now much smaller, which means you have to reprioritize, rescope, and realign with your business objectives, whatever you do. So often, now we're being asked, if you're still employed, which is great, you're being asked to do more with less people, less funding, less time to try to make something work in 2023. And that's a challenge. Research shows that most product managers don't have experience in figuring out how to prune your portfolio, which is the one thing you need to do immediately, is to get rid of all the products that are just not working and have not been working for a long time, pet products. And sometimes as product managers, we tend to do that mortal sin of falling in love with the product, even though it's not the right product. And you need to start furiously just pruning your portfolio, number one. So you can reallocate resources and funding to one or two products that need to be continued, and then focus on maybe one or two products that would be new products to the organization that you can execute on in the next few months.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be a challenge. You need to prune your portfolio at the same time that you continue to refocus how you do product discovery.
Do you have a tactical kind of example on how you would do that?
As a matter of fact, actually, I have a related talk, and I talk about your first 90 days when you're coming on board as either a new product management, or you have taken side promotion, you've been reassigned within the same organization, and now you're being asked to work on something new to you. Whether you're in the same organization or a new organization, it's a 90-day roadmap, and there's a talk that we've done. It's available from our website, Product Camp DC, that we did a talk on, and I'm actually doing a respin of that next month. It's free live online event to attend. I'm actually partnering with this organization called the Great IT Professional, and I'm doing the same talk. Specifically talk about how to prepare to lead a team, a brand new team, in trying to come up with something new, whether it's you're working on product discovery or you're working on pruning your portfolio, which has to be done as a team. It can't be done by just one person. You need to assign a team to figure out what are the right products to let go of and the right products to emphasize, so that you can reallocate resources and funding to those two things: new products and then the continuing products that are working right now and that you can continue to improve.
Yep. Thank you. And so that session that you're talking about that you've got coming with through the Product Camp DC and through that program is really targeted at team leaders, as I understand it, building product teams. And similarly, this month at Product Coffee, on our series on your first night on taking on a new product, this whole month of January, we have our workshop at the end of the month is going to be focused on actually, as an individual contributor, building out your 30, 60, 90-day plan for your new product, whether you're taking on a new product for the company or a new to you product where you're moved into a new role. One of the things that we're seeing, as you observed there, Hector, with so many people shifting jobs due to one company laying off and other people out there in the job market taking on new companies, even if you kept your position at a company that had to reduce staff on the product management team, chances are pretty good you're having to take on a new product that you weren't responsible for before. So this entire month at Product Coffee is going to be about helping you make good choices and decisions and ramp into those new products really successfully. And thanks for that, Hector. John Mansour, I see you're on the line. Why don't you come say hello and introduce yourself? We got a couple minutes left for introductions.
Good morning, everybody. John Mansour here, president of Product Management University. Life is good, having fun, still loving my job 21 years into it.
Excellent.
And, I thought that, when I plunked down a couple of bucks for that lottery ticket yesterday, that my Product Coffee friends here would be the first to know that I'm a newly minted billionaire, and that I would travel the world on my own dime and teach product management for free. But, unfortunately, the lottery gods weren't with me. However, still going to do some product management training for free. We've got this winter seminar series going, and the focus of all of them is around customer outcomes. And so we're hitting all the customer facing disciplines: product management, product marketing, sales engineering, and customer success. And we have our next freebie coming up February 4th. And the title of that particular training seminar is Improving Sprint Execution and Product Usability in One Fell Swoop. Okay. So what I've noticed about a lot of companies is your agile process is fine. There's always going to be room for improvement, but it's your feeder systems that need a little bit more muscle. So myself and our great friend and colleague, Holly Jewell, who's here with us this morning, will be co-presenting with me. It'll be like a sporting event. I'll do the play-by-play, and she will do the color commentary. And for those of you who know Holly, on her worst day, she's about 1,000 times more colorful than I am. So I'm just surrounding myself with good people. You're only as good as the people you surround yourself with, right? So I am going to post it to the chat here. It's free, 1 hour seminar, again, February 4th. I'll post it here with a link, register, and Holly and I hope to see you there.
If not, we will hunt you down.
And hey, Holly, if you want to drop that in the notes document as well, we'll make sure it's there for people who miss it in the chat as it goes by the first time. So
Will do. Just to add on what John said, it's going to be so exciting. I'm excited and I can't wait.
awesome.
I will see you there.
So
I might get
exciting.
pom-poms. It could be dangerous, John. We'll talk later.
That's right.
See, I think we got time for maybe one more introduction real quick before we switch gears. Let's say hey to Tiago. Welcome back, Tiago. I hadn't seen you in a minute.
Hey everyone. Yeah, Happy New Year to all of you. So for those who don't know me, Thiago Brum, I am Director of Product with ADP. Gearing up for 2023 with this awesome group. I can't wait for the webinar with John and Holly. And yes, John, like I agree with you. Like Holly, in her bad days, she can add a lot of color to everything. Can you imagine her good days? How it is? You need to watch it. So happy to be here. Like right now, taking care of a lot of planning for the next fiscal year, a lot of prioritization, strat planning. So you know the drill, and still trying to have people getting people paid on a regular basis and have their tax forms issued accordingly. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun here. So happy to be here with you all.
Excellent. Welcome back. Happy New Year. And it's about time for us to shift gears and let's talk a little bit about what we've got coming up here for a moment. But before we do that, I want to take just a quick moment to recognize all of our sponsors. We have, I mentioned at our last session last year that for 2023, we have added a bunch of new sponsors. We've got Genuine Parts Company as well as Sophion joining us for the first time this year. We want to really thank them. They've come on board as platinum sponsors. We're going to be hearing more from them throughout the year. John, thank you as always for supporting both Product Camp and Product Coffee from Product Management University. And of course, Feature Upvote, it continues to support Product Coffee by providing our ideas forum at productcoffee.com/ideas, where you can make suggestions for the types of sessions you'd like to hear and see at Product Coffee. And last but certainly not least is Method, once again, our diamond sponsor for Product Coffee. And I want to welcome Jeff Meddy to say just a quick word about Method. And thank you again for your support, Jeff.
Thank you, Jason, for letting us. This is our favorite, one of our favorite things to do is kind of support and participate in the community. So anyways, yeah, Jeff Meddy with Method out of the Atlanta office here. And we are a product design and engineering consultancy. So we work with a lot of mid to large size enterprises to launch new products, introduce modern product into their organizations, and also get to launch a few innovation labs from time to time. So, and we are part of Global Logic, and they are truly a global team. And it's interesting. One of the things actually I'll do that has my attention if I can, and at the same time, but this actually goes all the way back to Alex's last talk on high performing teams. I haven't let go of that topic. It just takes me a while to let one sink in. And so I've been thinking about a lot about high performing teams and remote and the new world and particularly kind of near shore and offshore and how those fit in. I had the opportunity to work kind of both near shore and offshore last year, and definitely started to realize some differences and things like that. So that's really kind of a focus for me, is just kind of what really works, especially in the new product development, not scaling and implementation and all that good stuff. So anyways, Jeff Meddy with Method, and glad to be here and looking forward to Alex's talk. It'll probably take me 6 months again to fully dive into it.
But he doesn't even use big words.
It's the gift that keeps giving.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeff, and thank you to all our sponsors. So glad to have you support. John will also get a link to that webinar out to our full audience for you too, so that everybody knows about it.
Thank you very much.
You bet. So this month we are taking on a big series on taking on a new product here at Product Coffee, and the first session is today. We'll have them every Wednesday. We've kind of tweaked our schedule a little bit as well. In the past, we've just alternated weeks between 7:30 and 11:30. That's a little bit less predictable. So we've made a subtle change to that this year. In 2023, the first and third Wednesday of every month will be an 11:30 a.m. Product Coffee, and the second and fourth Wednesday of every month will be our 7:30 a.m. Product Coffee. That way we're kind of shifting back and forth on a more predictable schedule. And the fourth Friday of every month will be our professional development workshop, which is open to the public, is included for Product Coffee Premium members. Your membership right now is $249 a year or $25 a month. At the end of January, that price is going up. So we are at 98 members right now, and so we're going to cross 100 in January, and that price is going to go up a little bit. You will be grandfathered into that $249 a year price for as long as you remain a member if you join now. So jump over to productcoffee.com and join us on the premium side. We've got a private Slack channel and a bunch of extra programming and sessions. Right now, we're doing a book club that's open to everybody here on Start at the End by Matt Wallert. Our premium members are going to have a roundtable discussion with the author, Matt Wallert, later on this month, as well as we finish up the book. That'll only be available to premium members. And once again, the workshop, your 90-day product plan, will also be available to premium members, where we will go through the process of building out a 90-day plan together based on best practices from companies across the product management ecosystem. So, would love to see you there. Next week, we've got a panel discussion coming together on building support from day one with your leadership. So, and that's going to be a really exciting discussion. We're bringing in some VPs of product from several different companies to talk about how they've experienced their teams and their colleagues, and in their own career, the types of activities and conversations they have to build confidence and support with their leaders very quickly as they're taking on a new product. But today, we're going to talk with our old friend, Alex Sherman, not to say that Alex is old, he's a lot younger than I am, about being a caretaker or a change agent. And that's when you're taking on a new product, one of the things that you need to figure out very quickly is, what's my real mission here? What's the mandate that I have? I may have been told one thing. I may have been told, hey, you're here to bring product growth. But as I dig in, I learned that this is actually an older product that maybe shouldn't actually be carried forward. Maybe we should be replacing it with something else, or maybe we should be thinking about things in a different way. And as you explore that product throughout your company, you're going to develop a perspective on what your mandate really is. We're going to talk about discerning that early on and the types of things that you need to do to understand your mission with your new product. Before we do that, I want to point you over to our resources page. If you go over to productcoffee.com/now, you'll see our resources page. And on this page, there's a link to a couple of blog posts that Alex has recommended, as well as several books that he's recommended for you to read as you're taking on a new product. These include Sprint by Jake Knapp, Empowered by Marty Kagan, and there's a new one that was unfamiliar to me before that we're going to hear about a little bit here as well, called Strong Product. And we'll hear from Alex about that in just a few minutes as well. There's also a notes document at productcoffee.com/notes. And this is a Google Doc that we work on together. And this is one of our habits at Product Coffee. Instead of just taking notes for yourself, I'd ask you to jump over to productcoffee.com/notes, jump in there. And as you hear something interesting, take notes in this public group document. Save it to your own Google Drive. Keep it handy. This is going to be there forever for you as a permanent record of what we talked about in this session. So drop your notes, drop your questions and all your thoughts about this session into that document as we go. And it's impossible for me to transcribe all the notes as we go. So we kind of do this as a team so that we have a better record of what we talked about here and some of the insights that we glean. So that's it for our introductory content. Now I want to shift over to Alex and bring Alex to the forefront here. Alex Sherman has led multiple product camps here in Atlanta. He has been a product manager for, gosh, probably a half a dozen companies. I met Alex. I think Alex was at Daxco when we first met, and he's been through quite a career transition. We've had the fortune of working together at IBM for a good bit, and now Alex is a product coach at Kaiser Permanente, where he is helping Kaiser develop modern product practices and working with the teams there to deliver great product management career development, as well as great products for Kaiser Permanente. Alex, why don't you jump in here and say hello and welcome to Product Coffee.
Hey, everyone. A lot of familiar faces. Always good to see you all. Excited to be here. Also excited to hear what other people have to say about this topic. So yeah, I'm really excited to kind of talk about, you know, some of the things that I've observed in my career, right? I want to remind people I'm one individual on this journey, so happy to share what I've seen.
Yep. And so glad to have you here. Why don't you start off for us? You have had a pretty storied career in product management, for a 25-year-old especially. Yeah. Why don't you walk us through a little bit about your how I got into product management story? Tell us your background, how you got into product management in the first place, and kind of some of your journey to where you are today. What brought you here?
Yeah, I think like everybody else here, and a lot of people say this, they fell into product management, and maybe some of you have heard my story. So happy to like do a quick Cliff Notes version of it. But I had just graduated college during the last recession. So I feel for a lot of the people that are, you know, experiencing this right now, know that it you know, just see it as more opportunity, right? That's the way I like to look at it. So whatever happens, there's always more opportunity when these situations happen. But anyways, I was a little worried. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to either, you know, work in an established organization, understand how they work, and maybe eventually start my own, or just start my own company. I took the path of taking whatever I could get. And I was lucky enough to start at a small, very small company where they had kind of a startup within an even smaller company. There were 6 of us who were building software for small businesses. So think business plan builder, website builder, email service provider, sales document builder, HR builder, like more apps, more business apps than 6 people should ever be building. And I was hired on as a product specialist. I was so excited. It was really interesting. The founder is a former NFL football player. His name's Fran Tarkenton. He also played for UGA. And
was so on That's Incredible.
He was, yeah. So he hosted That's Incredible, and there's a clip of him with young Tiger Woods, if some people have seen that. But like super interesting individual and really interesting small company dynamic. Anyways, I was hired on as a product specialist, and it was my job to demo the software to other partners that could maybe sell this software on our behalf, right? So we could partner with these individual companies to maybe sell to their networks. And in doing that, I hope I'm not like calling people out here. The products weren't great, right? I realized the products weren't great, and I knew we could do better and create a better user experience before I even heard of that term. And so my manager, who's the COO at the time, just gave me kind of full reign. And that's how I kind of stepped into product management. I started to Google some things around product management. I stumbled upon Rich Mironov and some panels that he was on with some other individuals. And luckily, in that journey, I Googled Product Conference Atlanta, and Product Camp Atlanta came up. And 2 weeks later, I was at my first product camp, and I think it was in 2011. And I have a lot to thank for those individuals that are here as well. And so that kind of kicked off my career. And then from there, I was there for a good bit, learned a lot, learned about how to build products, how to work with engineers, how to test things, how to market things. So much like, you know, Steve, you're at a startup, your sales, your marketing, your everything, your support. I did it all. We created ads. I followed up on leads, cold calling them, trying to sell like software. So it was a good experience. But I was hungry to learn more, to learn how other organizations build products, because I knew there's always other ways to build products. And so I went to a company called Daxco, and we made software for YMCAs. And I'll say this right now, most of my career has been working in almost brand new products. So that's like most of my career. I'll say that that's the framing of a lot of this in my experience. So maybe not as much in terms of like optimization, but like we're starting a brand new thing. I'm your person. I can probably, I have a lot of failures and learnings that have come along with that, right? So anyways, helped launch a new product that was just starting and went from 0 customers to, over 100, making, a couple million in revenue. And that was a lot of fun. I learned so much. It was my first time also working with like a very small product team. In my first job, it was just me working with a few engineers out of Florida. We were just doing too much. And this is the first time it was me on a small team. I'm a product manager, the designer sitting right next to me, and there's a few engineers right behind me. And we're working together to build something. And we built something and we learned something, and it was incredible. We had a lot of autonomy in terms of how we build our products and how we test our products. And we were early adopters of a lot of the lean startup principles, right? Even before I had joined that team, this team was pretty high functioning. And that really transformed my career, because I saw that and I said, I want to show others how we can do that. But from there, I went to IBM with some folks on this call, which is an incredible experience that gave me a lot of empathy for very large organizations and how they work. It was so much fun. I learned how to work across multiple time zones across the world with individuals to rally together to build something that's valuable, or at least try to make something valuable. And then from there, I went to Pivotal Labs, and that's where I really wanted to optimize my career. So that gave me the opportunity. So if you're not familiar with Pivotal Labs, they're now VMware Tanzu Labs. What we do, so you have a product manager, designer, software engineers on the Pivotal Labs side or Tanzu Labs side. And we would literally pair with the exact same disciplines on the client side for 3 to 6 months. Every day we were there with them. We sat next to them. We brought them to our office, and we go from nothing to a product. So I got to do that, I think, over a dozen times through different industries, cutting across healthcare, retail, telecom, fintech, insurance, and a few other industries. So it was so much fun to be able to just quickly get into a domain and build something that was what we think valuable and helped people do it without us, which was a lot of fun. And then from there, like Jason said, I'm now at Kaiser Permanente, where I think like every giant organization, they're going through a transformation. So I was tapped on the shoulder and lucky enough to be the first product coach there, actually. Now we have a good team of product design and engineering coaches that are helping kind of transform how that large organization builds software. As you can imagine, it's an 80-plus-year-old company. There's a lot of practices that maybe are a bit obsolete, and there's always room for continuous improvement. So been there for almost 2 years now.
I've started to see an increasing number of companies have product coaches. Either they contract someone and bring them in for a short period of time, but an increasing number of companies are actually making this a role that they have on staff. Before we get into the main topic today, I'm really kind of curious, what's a day in the life of a product coach look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. So typically we've got a few offerings that we try to do, but ideally we're hanging out with a team and showing them how to work in a new way, right? So it's not just with the product manager, it's with the entire team or squad, whatever you want to call it. And when we talk about team, we're talking about there's a product manager, there's a designer, there's software engineers, maybe there's QA, maybe a few other roles, but it's going to be 10 to 12 people max. So ideally, we're gonna hang out with them for an extended period of time. Here at Kaiser, I'm not able to do full time with them all day, every day, like I have in maybe other past experiences, but at least some fraction of the week, maybe a few days a week, we're showing them how to do discovery, right? So I'm going to show them how to do discovery. What assumptions do we have about the thing that we're about to build, right? And what objectives and key results are we using to help us hone in or figure out the context that we're trying to build this within? So it's working side by side with them and showing them how to do it, doing it with them, and synthesizing that information to go from discovery to delivery. And then even when you're in delivery, we're showing them how to work as a team together. And we're doing that through a lot of different ways. So it's either embedded coaching, and then we're also experimenting with, maybe some of you have heard of dojo challenges. So some organizations have adopted those practices or those approaches where you work with a team for 6 weeks and you're kind of optimizing the learning around a particular topic or an approach. And it's a very much, hey, let's try a thing. What did we learn? Let's try a new thing. And you're working off of your backlog. So we're also experimenting with that. So my day-to-day will vary between, it could be working with a team, but also with leaders. Because what we found is that even if you show teams how to work in this new way, if the leaders, their leaders, and I'm talking director and even VP level, if they don't understand the roles, if they don't understand what and how these teams should be working and giving them the empowerment to be able to solve these problems, then it falls apart pretty quickly. Right. And probably a lot of you have seen that, right? You could have teams do discovery all day long. You could have them be high functioning, but if the leaders don't understand it and squash it and swoop and poop, whatever you want to call it, it falls apart pretty quickly. So the other part of my job is also collaborating with these leaders and working with them to own that transformation as well. And that's been a lot of fun, and a lot of challenges come along with that. And I'm growing. I'll say that right now. I'm growing a lot in that area and working with those individuals.
Very good. Thanks. I appreciate that little diversion. Let's switch back over. I don't want to do too much of a bait and switch for everybody here. But I do want to come back over to our main topic, which is really around that journey of taking on a new product. And I know from your experience there, while the bulk of your experience has been net new products, you've also come into a couple of situations, and I'm intimately familiar with one of them. You've come in where there's a product that hasn't exactly launched yet, but it's been a passion project for a lot of people, and there's work to be done. And I know you had to make some assessments around that, and I presume you've had to make some assessments around the nature of an existing product a few times in your career. So let's start with that a little bit, and identifying what your mandate really is. Walk us through from the types of questions that you might, and I'll prompt you back on these if necessary, when you're considering taking on a new product, whether you're interviewing for a new job or you're talking with a leader about an opportunity within the company. What are the types of questions that you want to ask before you even get your hands on the product to help you understand what you're getting involved with?
Yeah, great question. So if we're thinking about it from an interview perspective, I'm glad you brought it up, because hopefully you're asking some of these questions before you even start, knowing that a lot's going to change once you're actually in the organization, right? Like we've all felt that we hear and feel something in the interview process, and we get in there and it's very different, and that's okay, right? I think we have to expect that. But in the beginning, how do we uncover like the current state of their situation and what they're trying to achieve? And so some of the big questions I'll ask is just first, how are they deciding on what to build today? That usually uncovers quite a bit of their approach and what they're looking at to actually solve for, right? So who's involved, right? How are they deciding and how are they prioritizing it? And from there, I can often uncover how they define success for that, right? Like what signals, and I'll frame it differently. I won't just say success, but like what signals are you putting out there that'll let you know that you're headed in the right direction, that what you're building is good. And I've gotten some question or some responses that are, not great. Like we've had X amount of email signups. That doesn't help anyone, right? But that's okay. That means maybe you can help them, right? Just because maybe it's not looking great doesn't mean that there's not opportunity for you to help them. I'm also trying to understand, are they using OKRs? I know not everybody is, objectives and key results, and that's okay. But that gives me and other individuals an understanding of like, well, are they intentional about what they're trying to build, right? Or are they just trying to build features and hope that they work? Because we see that often. And I'll say this right now, I've been in organizations, there's one in particular, they had over 400 features, of which only 70 were being used.
Yep.
Like what a colossal waste of time and money, right? It could be.
Yeah. You mentioned OKRs specifically.
Yeah.
And I know that's a framework that I'm very, very excited and passionate about, and love helping teams embrace. But there are also some other approaches to defining what success looks like. Are there other approaches that you've seen to defining success, like OKRs, that also work, or that maybe don't work, that you would want to like pay attention to as you're hearing the responses to those questions?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of other things that maybe work and don't work. I think if people start off, or companies start off with saying that their goal is to make more money, yes, that is the ultimate goal of an organization. Totally. Like, we all understand that. But what else are you putting in place to help you understand that you're headed in the right direction, right? When there's a lack of objectives and key results, which is common, that's fine. Like, I've been at plenty of companies where we didn't have that. But at least there's some kind of overall goal that we're trying to hit towards. When there's a lack of goals, which happens, that's usually a trigger, right? Like, why is there a lack of goals? What exactly are we trying to do here? Or when you ask the question of what are your goals, and the response is, we want to build these features in this quarter, that's usually I'm gonna perk up a little bit and try to dig in a little bit more, right? And I'll pop a why stack, right? The 5 whys on them. Like, well, what about these features? What do you expect to happen if these features are out there? And that kind of untangles that. I'm not sure if that covers your question, Jason, but that's how I usually navigate, without the lack of like overarching big things that they want to hit on.
Yeah, I think I do. I do relate. It does answer my question. I was working with a team a little while back that was working on, and you can relate to this a little bit as well from a new product development perspective. I was working with a team that was working on some technology that was so far out in front of consumer demand. It was solving problems that were going to be important 5 years from now. So measuring success became a completely different challenge, and the behavior that it incurred, that it resulted in, was, well, we can't really measure success yet with anything beyond delivery.
Totally.
The reality is, you have a hypothesis, you're developing a product, you're making an investment in some technology that could be a big winner or it could be a big loser. But when you're that far out in front of, you have to find some way to sense whether you're on the right track. And understanding the maturity of an organization to have clear goals and definitions of success beyond just feature delivery versus, and really getting to the outcomes versus outputs conversation early on, is part of understanding that mandate, understanding how to be successful in your new role with a new product.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's a big part of it. Now you've taken on a new product. What are some of the first things that you need to do to really evaluate the state of that product and understand where you need to be heading?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I love to do is try to talk to customers or users as soon as possible. Like, number one, right? How fast can I get in front of them or listen to them or observe, whatever it is, going to be pretty hungry for that. And I know Marty Kagan talks about it, and Chris Jones in Empowered, right? So this is, that book is for leaders, but you can kind of flip it as an individual going into it, where they talk about anytime you bring on a new product person, get them for the first 3 weeks in front of product people. Don't know if that's feasible in some orgs, right? But, try to do that. So I'm going to try to create my own kind of understanding of the current state of these customers and their interactions with that. That just helps so much, right? And I'll even say it's the first few years of my career, I didn't do that, and I felt it. And it makes your job a lot harder. So I've learned to kind of flip it and do it much faster and sooner than I have in the past. So outside of that, I think in parallel is I reference a really good post that I still think about today. I read it in like 2014 or 2015, whenever it came out, from Ken Norton. And he talks about his first, your first 30 days in product. And it's pretty simple and straightforward. And I think so the theme there is like doing discovery on your organization, right? And leveraging and talking to those individuals, helping out where you can, doing the small things like where you can take over, like, let me do those slides for you or whatever it is, but not making huge changes just yet, right? become a better listener than an actionable individual, at least in those first 2 to 3 months. And so I certainly try to follow that. And some of the things he says around there's talk to your leaders. So if you have the ability, your CEO, your VPs, leadership. And I remember not doing that in some orgs when I first started. I was scared. I'll say that. Like I was worried. I'm like, I don't want to take up their time. But I've gotten over that. They're people just like us, and they're more than happy to talk to almost anyone in their org usually, right? Mm-hmm. What's always interesting is that when you start to talk to those leaders, you often find a lot of gaps and not a whole lot of alignment across leaders. Right. I'm sure some of you have seen that. And so I leverage that. Now I'll kind of create my own discovery board. And I've done it here. I did it here at Kaiser Permanente, where I kind of created my own discovery board. Right. I've got my conversations with, members, I've got our customers, I've got conversations with leaders of various levels, VP to director, and I try to kind of synthesize that. So outside of talking to customers and talking to leaders, and it's really uncovering like, what does success look like, asking it in various different ways, and like what risks, right? What are some risks in this product, in this state that you see? And that may give me some other kind of direction to do more discovery on as well, right? And so that's super helpful. That I found that super helpful. So we've got talking to people, actual customers, talking to executives. But if there's sales, marketing, support in your org, go to talk to them. Get all those perspectives, because it's what we do as product people, right? You're eventually going to be collaborating with them in some form or fashion, so that get their current perspective on the product itself today. And you're going to uncover quite a bit from there as well. Outside of that, the other thing I'll do in parallel to all of that is quantitative and qualitative, right? I think I talked about qualitative. I'm going to go talk to customers, but quantitatively, like what's happening if we have a product that's out there? What data do we have? What's interesting to me though, is that most of my career now, there's not a whole lot of data that people have, which is kind of interesting, right? It depends on how mature the organization is. But if we've got something that tells us that people are using or aren't using our product, I'd love to know that, right? And that creates other questions that come out of that, right? Why aren't people using it here? Why are they dropping off here? And it's those things that I use to help paint a picture of current state today, and maybe just a glimpse of like what the leaders think the future should look like.
Great. So let's pivot a little bit into our real topic about identifying sometimes disparity between stated intent and reality, and talk about some of the things that you might see that help you understand, listening to the organization as you're doing that internal discovery, whether your role is really to just take care of something and keep it healthy, or really to drive change. What's the understanding of the leadership around you, of the team around you, and of the rest of the organization? Is everything stable? We want to keep it where it is and just keep it healthy, or do we really have opportunity to drive massive change? And do we have an organization that's aligned around investing in change? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Where do we want to begin though? There's a lot to unpack there.
So why don't we? We talked a little bit about the discovery, so let's just talk about let's go a little bit deeper into the discovery side of things, and identify some places where the stated intent is to drive growth, but the organizational understanding is not that this product is not necessarily an important investment for growth.
So I've observed instances, maybe this will help paint a picture with some examples. I've encountered examples where we've worked with a company. They had an existing product out there. I'm trying to be, I don't want to be too detailed because I don't want to get understood. I can't, right? But they had an existing product out there. It's basically a B2B, if you want to call it that. And it was a legacy B2B product, right? And they wanted to invest in re-architecting the backend to make it a bit more efficient so that they could release more often, but they wanted to pass those costs to the customers. Customers actually wouldn't see any difference in the usage of it, but they would be paying more. And they also wanted to repackage it as a new product. And so we kind of scratched our heads. And what happened was so we ended up helping them out, right? But looking back on it, we probably shouldn't have. What they wanted and what the market wanted were probably two different things, right? Market wanted something brand new. What they wanted to do was to repackage a legacy product and pass it off as a new thing, and that just wasn't going to fly. We ended up trying to help them. We got to a point where we started to show them what that could look like in redoing the back end and optimizing it, but they eventually just stopped it, and that was the right decision. In the beginning, we did show them, how ugly their baby was. We showed them the reality of it. Sometimes leaders just want to try something to show that maybe it can happen, and sometimes it doesn't work. And in this case, it didn't work out, right? And so in that case, we knew that we're here, we'll help out. We've stated what the reality is. We showed you what the cost is to invest in this, and they still did it, and we still pulled the plug on it eventually, which is the right thing to do, right? There's a sunk cost fallacy in there. But it was in that discovery that we uncovered, the reality of that situation was that this is just a repackaging of a legacy product, and it's not going to look any different to the end customers. Yeah, that was tough. It was pretty tough.
Yeah.
There were some good learnings there. If I look back, I would have stopped that much earlier or just said no much earlier, but sometimes it's hard to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But that was our mandate, was to just build something. Even though they saw it, we showed them reality before we even started.
So the mandate was to create and grow.
Yeah.
The reality was it shouldn't have been the mandate.
Right. Yeah. The mandate should have been maintain, right? That should have been maintain. It should have been maybe start a parallel effort in a new product, right? And exploring a new product and creating a new product, but not trying to tweak this legacy product, right? Yeah. So that was very, very apparent. Other examples of that, like I've been at companies where I'm trying to figure out, are you just wanting me to build some features? Are you wanting me to actually drive some changes and metrics or outcomes that we have for the organization, right? And that has happened. I've been part of companies where it's, we're trying to impact these metrics as an organization. How you do that is up to us as an organization, right? And we're flexible in how we do that. Although we want to know at least, in the next 3 months what we're building, and that's totally fair. But I've also been in organizations where it's just build this stuff, just build this feature. And maybe that's okay to begin with, right? And I think that's okay, because that's going to be the reality of a lot of companies. I'll say that right now, they just need to build stuff. And I think we have to meet them where they are sometimes. But that doesn't mean that we can't hold those hard conversations or those good conversations around, if we build this, what do we expect to happen? Right? We can still have those good conversations. Cool, we could build that feature. I'm going to do it. I know my mandate. It's like we've sold it to our board of directors. We've sold it to our leadership. We have to build it. Great. But let's have a discussion about what success looks like, right? At the very least. And that's where, Jason, you talked about OKRs. OKRs are a really good way to do that. I'll call out Teresa Torres and the opportunity solution tree. I found that to be super helpful, kind of like a mix it's in between your roadmap and your backlog. And it's such a good visualization tool to have that conversation between you and your leaders and to understand your mandate, right? Are you just wanting to build these features, or are we trying to hit this outcome? And it often will, hopefully the features you're building will be connected to an outcome or some experiments.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I also want to start inviting folks in the audience here. We got a bunch of people on the call. In just a moment, I'll ask you if you've got a question or a comment that you'd like to insert, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. Before you do that, though, I'm curious, by show of hands, I think we all tend to think of other product managers as having the same motivations as we do. As an individual, I assume that everyone thinks the way I do, and I learn frequently that is not the case. If I look out across who's joining us here today, how many of you really are most interested in working with a product where your mandate is to drive change, is to drive growth? Just by show of virtual hands, using the raise hand in your reactions panel, who's really most interested in working in products where you are intended to be a change agent? And the flip side of that, I'm going to ask in just a moment. Maybe use the thumbs up reaction if you really are excited about taking something that exists and keeping it healthy and being that caretaker of an existing product. Maybe finding new uses for it, but really keeping it healthy. Got a couple thumbs going up on that as well. So, and I think a lot of product managers tend to lean towards I want to be a change maker. I want to drive change, but I think it's very important to realize that there are lots of people out there who really are excited about keeping a business healthy that's already in market. And when you think about the work that you do at Kaiser and some of the other companies that you've been, what questions might someone ask themselves to start thinking about what's my real motivation? Where am I going to be most successful? Am I going to be successful driving change, or am I going to be successful and happy taking care of something and learning from something that exists today?
So I think you can find a lot of value and inspiration in either of those tracks, right? Mm-hmm. There's like I think I heard curiosity earlier today. There's curiosity in both of those tracks for sure. And there's room for growth and opportunity in each of those tracks. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to unpack the question, Jason, as well. But one of the things I wanted to call on is like, how do you kind of uncover that and understand that? So in that book, I think Strong Product People, so it's a newer book. I'd highly recommend reading it. It is for product leaders, but again, you can kind of flip it from the role of a product manager, but it's understanding. She calls out, her name's Petra is the name of the author. She calls mm-hmm. out when you're working with your product report or product manager, make sure they understand the situation, right? Their role and the directional clarity. And that is so important, right? And I think that kind of hits on the mandates, the different mandates, right? Are we simply maintaining this product? Are we simply trying to extract as much as we can out of it? So I think about the explore, expand, extract 3X model from Kent mm-hmm. Beck, right? Where do we fall on this model? So like having those models to have the conversation around is super helpful, right? Are we an explore, right? Are we trying to create a new product? Are we expanding? Or do we have something that has traction? We're trying to get it out there and scale it. Or are we extracting, right? Is this mm-hmm. a super legacy product that we're just getting the most out of? And those conversations will usually help you uncover that, right? Using mm-hmm. those models. But there's a lot of fun in all of those, right? I think either way, you have different sets of problems to uncover at each of those horizons, right? For sure. There's value in each of those horizons, but there's still discovery to be done in each of those horizons as well, right? I would encourage people to try all three if you can, or all the different mandates that are out there. Yeah, for sure.
That's a really great call out, and that was Ken Beck.
Kent Beck.
Kent Beck.
He's got a YouTube video. So this was when he was at Facebook. Okay. So if you're familiar with Kent Beck, he wrote Extreme Programming Explained. It's like one of the OGs. I see Jerry nodding his head. He's very familiar with it. But then he was at Facebook, in the mid 2010s, because we're in the 20s now. And he did a 3X talk, and I'll pop the video in the resources later. And I still think about it to this day. It kind of reminds me of the horizon planning, right? And he put this together after what he observed at Facebook, which is like, they're not agile. They're not.
Right.
But they're here in this extract part. And so sometimes you just got to build the thing and extract out of it. But they're still a very metrics oriented organization, right? So there's mandates to build the thing, but they still value the metrics over building the things in general, because they can invest in that, right? They have the ability to. I think John's got his hand up.
Yep. I was just about to pivot over to him. John, bring it on.
Thank you. So Alex, question for you, and it gets back to this, caretaker thing here. Yeah. How often do you see that it is very much a personality type of the product managers where, and I've seen this in my career where one of the companies I worked for, we split into two business units. One was a legacy product line, generating $300 million of revenue, and the other one was sort of new startup, I don't know, $25, $30 million in revenue. Yeah. And it was interesting to see some people just aren't comfortable under the spotlight or the microscope on these new products because they're so high profile. And I think that's a lot of what drives. I don't know how much of that you've seen in your career.
I'd say I would go 70-30 if I were to just observe and anecdotally talking to different PMs and what I've seen in organizations.
70 which way?
So 70 going towards the new stuff. 30 going to the legacy and maintaining stuff, right? I will often meet people and product managers and interact with them. They're like, I just want to try something new, right? I'm excited about that. Excites me, and I may be off there, right? I'm one individual on one track, like I said. But of the companies I've observed, usually there's a good chunk of them that just want to try new things, and they're excited to go to a new product. Like if they're in a larger organization, they'll often be switching teams. Often is what I've noticed and observed as well, and I think that's good because that their excitement kind of propagates throughout the org when that happens, and I think that's a good thing. But we need individuals to help maintain the existing things that we have out there as well. And there's a lot of that out there, right? And there's still opportunity to experiment. Now, when companies have that mandate, but they don't give product people the tools to be able to do that, or the feedback loops are super long, right? Then you lose people. In either of those categories, John, that you mentioned, you're going to lose people. If the feedback loop is too long, if it takes 6 months to a year to get any feedback on what you build from a customer or analytics perspective, I've always observed people go pretty quickly after that, right? But know what you're getting yourself into. I think a lot of these, I've seen some young PMs come into some larger organizations. They don't know, maybe they haven't seen what to ask yet. Because you can tell pretty quickly, well, how often do you release, right? In an area review, you can get a sense of that, but they'll move pretty quickly, is what I've observed, the younger PMs, if they don't get those short feedback loops. But I think that's why a lot of people like the newer stuff, because they can create their own little world to be able to get in front of customers often, and also, maybe talk about what they're learning to the rest of the org, which is a lot of fun as well.
Great. And I would invite everyone to jump in and raise your hand if you've got a question. You can also feel free to jump in and just kind of, we're all in one big room together. I do want to go back earlier in the session, and we're kind of shifting out of our main topic here because there were some questions that no, I'm intentionally shifting out of our initial topic. Gotcha. There was a question that came up earlier in the session today, but in the chat, Latha asked about the degree to which, as you've moved from organization to organization and product to product and throughout your career, learning the business domain that you're in detail in your new product, in order to recommend changes to the product, how much do you invest in learning the business domain versus aggregating perspective for yourself versus aggregating perspective from other stakeholders and players in the organization, like your engineering team, your sales team, and your business team?
What was the first part? Is aggregating versus what was the first part?
Aggregating perspectives from inside the business versus learning the business domain and becoming an expert in the business domain yourself.
Yeah. So I'll speak to my experience when I was at that Pivotal Labs consultancy place, right? Because I think there's a lot of good techniques there that we use to be able to balance between those two kind of observations that you just hit on, Jason, like internal versus external. And I like to reference, there's a good book called Just Enough Research. And it's been my motto for a few years now, which is like just enough to know to be able to make a decision to move forward. It's by Erica Hall. It's purely research, but I've applied it to a lot of other things as well, especially when getting to know and understand a particular domain. What's cool about when I was able to work at Pivotal Labs, we worked with various industries. So we only had like a few weeks to really get up to speed before we made some pretty big decisions on building a product. We would often start off with this approach. I don't want to call it a process, but approach called discovery and framing. If you're familiar with the design sprint, it's basically that with research, exploratory research happening that feeds into a sprint basically, right? So it kind of follows the basics and the flow of design thinking. So who are the people? What are the problems? What are the different ways that we can solve it so we can get to a starting point to start building? And it was through those approaches that balanced the internal and the external perspectives to come together on something that was just enough for us to start with. I'm hesitating to use the word MVP because it's been bastardized, right? But it's just enough of a domain knowledge to get there. And it's proven pretty well. We've, when I did this, we would often, it was in one particular industry in fintech where an individual was talking to us and they said, look, I've been in this industry for 20 years. And if there's usually a product manager here, it's because they've been in the domain for that long to be effective. But you all have come in and have been effective in just a few months. And I attribute it to those approaches around like the discovery and framing that just enough research to help get us up to speed to make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
I fully I'm aware of that. Like those approaches is what's helped, right? And so we're combining both of them, Jason. So it's going to be maybe weighing a little bit more on the external side of customers than the internal, but it's just enough of the internal to understand like where we should be looking, right? Mm-hmm. And what success is. And so that they also feel heard. Like that's a big part of it. There's a lot of psychology there. I think back to Never Split the Difference. I think Jim Voss, I forget his name, where you've got it's not about negotiation, but it's about understanding the individual's motivations and needs to get to that. Mm-hmm. And so it's, if I put a split on it, it's 60-40, right? 60% I'm weighing more on the external customer side and 40% on that side. And it's just enough for both. Because what we've seen is when you go too deep, if you extend those discovery and framings like outside of 4 weeks, it gets stale and you get analysis paralysis and decisions aren't made. And so I will often bias towards action for the sake of learning.
I know it looks like Jeff had to drop from the call. Jeff Meddy had to drop from the call, but I know that he's actually I've been in the office a couple times the last week or so, and he's got that Never Split the Difference sitting on his desk right now. So I'm going to drop a link to that into the notes document as well. So it'll be there in just a moment. But
I've heard Thiago mention it, I think, in the past as well, right?
I wanted to jump back in. Oh, I see Hector's got his hand up. So Hector, what's your question?
So my question is just having a straightforward definition between being a caretaker PM versus being a change maker or change agent PM in the context of the product portfolio. And just wanted to offer what I typically have done in multiple organizations. Using like well-known frameworks, and there are a lot of proven frameworks like the BCG matrix from McKinsey and the GE McKinsey matrix, that allows you to understand cash flow products versus profitable products already in market. And most organizations will focus caretaker PMs and assign those teams to their cash cow and stars. stars being profitable products, cash cow being cash flow products sold for cash flow. And most organizations need both to be successful. And they don't emphasize enough of the analysis and strategic side of figuring out when to bring these private problem child or question mark products that, you know, were maybe recently launched and not underachieving, show a lot of promise, but a lot of unknowns and don't know exactly what's needed to figure out how to get them to get traction in the market. And then they have lots of dog products that they keep in market that, you know, maybe 1 or 2 key accounts are buying and no more, and they're not profitable. And often part of this scenario is figuring out when to shed and prune dog and problem child products that you're never going to have enough resources or time or funding to work on, picking one of those to figure out how to bring them in to become cash cow or stars in the near future. That's what a change maker PM does, is figuring out what are the dog products that need to be pruned, what are the cash question mark products that need to be pruned, and which is the 1 or 2 of those question mark products that you need to emphasize and do more research on and build more customer data to bring that back to the organization and say, here's what we are serving, shifting buyer behavior is happening, and they're moving in this direction, and we don't have any products right now that can get us there unless we do this new product.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where most organizations get lost, because they just have lots of caretaker PMs, not enough change maker PMs.
That's a good perspective. That kind of builds on what John was saying in the chat a few minutes ago as well. You know, during the interview process, it doesn't necessarily show up, but you've got an executive team even that's really in a caretaker mentality. I'm close to retirement. I'm not looking to rock the boat and drive big change. I'm looking to ride it out with where it is. How do you, John, I'm going to switch. Oh, I see Holly waving her hand over there.
Getting
Holly, jump on in here.
I've been trying for the longest time. I don't think your reactions panel works really well, Jason.
I got it.
But anyway, I wanted to comment, especially now after what you just said, Hector. I actually have a different viewpoint. In the large enterprise companies I've worked in quite a few different things, right? As people who know me know, but everything from banking and fintech to retail and commerce sides. But I see a lot more of everyone wants to be the change agent, right? That sounds very sexy. We think we're all Mission Impossible. We all want to be, you know, running around like Burn Notice, doing things that are just so exciting. And there's not enough people that are looking to be the caretaker, right? And I see a lot of, and I've had this within my own teams, having to sit people down and say, you're trying to be that change agent in a product that needs a caretaker mode. I need you to be a parent, right? This is your child. It needs to go to daycare. It needs clean underwear. It needs shoes on when it leaves the house. Like, these are the things that need to happen. And I need you focused on, not, you know, let's give it new sexy features that it doesn't need, because that's not part of its life cycle, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that this session was super exciting to me, because that's a really important topic, whether you have a new product or even, I think, if you're in an existing product, sometimes, you know, checking yourself. And I said in the chat earlier, are you Picard or are you Adama? And that's literally, I know I'm a science nerd, but a question I used to ask myself every time I started thinking about a thing, and I had products in different stages in that portfolio, it was how I helped myself pivot, right? With this product, all right, am I off to brave new worlds with a cup of Earl Grey, right? On a voyage in enterprise? Or are we just trying to ride this thing out to its final destination, right? Are we just trying to get it, shepherd it on a good path from point A to point B? And I think that you have to really be mindful of that with your product and ask yourself that ongoing. But I think that it can change, right? And you know, there's a conversation here, and we certainly queued up in the topic about, is the mandate that you've gotten from leadership the right one? And I think John, you know, and Hector both had some good points here along the way about how you go about that, and Alex certainly on how you find out what that is. But you really, I think when you're coming in as a PM and doing all that analysis, you've got to use your eyes, right? It's part of the reason the value that you were brought in to do is to check that mandate, right? excuse me, and to say, you know, is that the right call for this product? And you've got to be willing to challenge that. And I see a lot of that too, where we as PMs, right, are awesome people, but we're not always in for the conflict, right? And so we're like, I don't think that's a good decision. We come here, we talk in these forums about how our leadership are dippies and they're going to fall on their butts, and, you know, terrible decisions made from the corner office, right, in the C-suite, but we don't always share that with them. And that's not easy. And I think you have to obviously be careful about how you have those conversations. But the best thing that I can say I ever did in my career was be willing to speak up and tell a person a thing and say, hey, you know, you may not want to hear this, but this is the wrong call for the product, and here's why. And if you lay that out, I think that leadership, they want to know these things, right? I mean, nobody doesn't want to know if they're about to fall off a cliff, right? Roadrunner style. But, you know, you gotta share that in a way that's like, hey, I just want to give you my insights and my perspective, and I can be wrong, be humble about it, right? But like, this is what I see, and this is why I feel that way. And if you give them the facts behind it, right, the why you think that decision is the wrong mandate for that product, they're going to be intrigued. And especially even if they disagree with you ultimately and they go down that path and decide to jump off the cliff, at least when that happens, right, they will know and they will remember that you made a different recommendation, and it can really, really help you. So sorry, just a bunch of random responses to different things that came up across time.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Holly. Thank you, everybody. We are at 8:59 right now. I'll keep the line open a little bit longer for anybody who wants to hang around and talk. We will close down the stream. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and remind you that next week we will be back with our panel on building support from day one. And we'll look forward to seeing you all back here on Product Coffee. Registration is live. Go to productcoffee.com/events for the link to register for that session right now. And we will see you back here next week. We've also got a happy hour out there on the schedule. If you're in Atlanta, we'd love to have you join us in person. And if you're outside of Atlanta, let us know where you are, and we'll come have a happy hour there too. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Happy New Year. And like I say, I'll stick around here for a little while longer, but that's it for Product Coffee today. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.